Hey everyone, good morning and happy Tuesday. I am back for another Facebook Live. I'm very excited because today we're going to talk about bookkeeping. I'm going to go over the way I do my bookkeeping. In fact, if you're on my email list, I sent you an email yesterday with the free download to the worksheet I included. The worksheet is just the worksheet that I use, okay? Nothing fancy. Well, it's fancy enough, but nothing fancy, and will allow you to put in your numbers for revenue and expenses. And it's just as simple as that. I'm very excited to provide it for you because I had a lot of people who requested it. Okay. It's an Excel document and you just sign up for my email list and it will give you the access. It's as simple as that. Okay. And if you don't have Excel, no worries. I'm going to show you what the worksheet looks like. You could really recreate it yourself. Okay. Obviously, me giving it to you saves a lot of time. So this Facebook Live has been highly requested for a very, very long time. And really, they request it was as it gets closer to tax season. And it is, pretty much we're right around the corner. I would hope that you've implemented most of these techniques before today because you have several months to get it prepared. However, if you have not or whatever, I'm hoping that today you learn some things that you could use going forward. We just started the new year. January hasn't even ended yet. So you could use this method that I'm teaching you that I do myself right when January ends. Because I do this every month at the end of each month. Well, pretty much when the month ends, I do it. And to keep up. So when the tax season rolls around, I'm literally knocking at the front door of my tax attorney the moment January hits. Because I'm done. I'm done with my bookkeeping. There's no stress, nothing, because of the way I do it. I want to show you the way I do it. For me, it's very simple, straightforward, but I'm going to walk you through it all. Now, if you're like, yes, I need to listen to this or whatever, just know that not only do you have this video, you will have a link of the blog post. I took a lot of time writing this blog post for you guys, which breaks down everything that I do with this worksheet. Now, if you have questions about bookkeeping, okay, and taxes, again, I'm not a tax attorney or anything like that, but I could answer it based on my experience, not giving you advice personally, okay? If you need advice personally based on your situation, you must go to a tax professional, okay? But I will just tell you what I know in my experience, and that's it. However, please save your questions toward the end so then I could answer them in bulk. Now, if you can't help it and you want to ask a question within the comments as I'm teaching you, no worries. I probably try to go back and find that question. Okay, so let's get started. I hope you guys have the worksheet. I emailed it to you yesterday. And again, you should be on my email list. If you're not, go to thehandmademastermind.com. You'll see my big old face there. And you click to sign up for my resource library. Any of these worksheets I put in my resource library because it's all in one place. It's simpler. So make sure you go there. Like last week's goal planning worksheets are in my resource library. Make sure after you sign up, you go there and download them. Okay, you don't have to download them right now. I'm going to show you what I got here. Okay, so you can follow along. And the front page, which is revenue and expenses, will auto-calculate for you as far as totals. But you have to get your expenses from the other sheets that are like other tabs that I included in the Excel document. Okay, we're going to go through it right now. So let's get started, okay? So I don't know everybody's situation here. Okay, I don't know if you only sell on Etsy. I don't know if you sell on Etsy and Amazon. I don't know if you have a couple Etsy shops. I don't know if you only sell on .com. I don't know. But what I do know is that the most popular platforms are Etsy, Amazon, your own website, which is .com, holiday markets that you do outside, right? Or craft shows, wholesale accounts. So having said that, on the worksheet, you'll see on the revenue part, okay, it's really small, so you can't see probably here, but you kind of follow along. I have Etsy, Amazon.com, wholesale, etc. across here. Across the top are the months. So that's simple and straightforward, right? So for Etsy, you get your total number for January and you type it in. For Amazon, you get your total number for January and you type it in. Now here's a question that people want to know. Maybe most of you know it, but I'm still going to go through it. How do you get these sales figures? Well, I walk you through it in detail in my blog post above, okay? But, so if you want to reference it later, you may. You could click it, save it, whatever. But for Etsy, it's really simple. You need to get not just the revenue from the Etsy stats. No, that's not how it works. You need to get every dollar you take in from that customer. And so this includes shipping and taxes. Your Etsy sales figures on your stats page do not include shipping and taxes. So what you want to do is go to your order section all the way toward the bottom. You're going to click download CSV file. Then you're going to click the type of CSV file you want is orders. Then below that you click the month and click the month that you're trying to do bookkeeping for. Simple. And the year. When you download it, there's, you know how there's like columns in Excel and they're all lettered like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The letter X is your total dollar amount in orders. Okay. So that includes shipping and taxes. You're going to take that whole column and add it up. Okay. If you want to know how to do it very, very quickly, look at my blog post. I teach you exactly how to do it. Okay. That's for Etsy. For Amazon, it's really simple. You go to the dashboard, you go to your view payment summary, which is in the top right-hand corner. Then you go to date range reports, and then you can generate a new report. After you generate the new report, all you have to do is click on summary, and then you click the month and the year that you want. After you download it, it's a PDF. When you open it, you will see the sales figures to the top left, and then your sales tax to the bottom right. You'll see it's big, bold numbers. Add those two numbers together. That is accurately your sales for that month in Amazon. All right, so, and of course you could do the same for each of these platforms. I mean, if you sell on your own.com, it depends on where you sell. Okay, the platforms will vary. If you sell in holiday markets, it depends on what payment processor you're using. So if you use Stripe, you could also log into your Stripe account, download the CSV file. It just depends, okay? But those are the two most commonly used platforms, Etsy and Amazon. So you're going to simply type in what the sales figures are. Remember, sales revenue is everything including shipping and taxes. It's every dollar you've taken in. You have to account for it. Now, just for the record, this sheet I gave you for free, mostly based on my business model. However, I find that a lot of us will have very similar situations. I have office supplies, cost of goods sold, advertising, car delivery and travel, accounting and legal, telephone and internet, online selling fees. That's something I like to do. Nothing required. Assets, education, food, subscription. There's a few things in here that's not required for you to break it up into that way. I do it because I want to see where my money's going. For example, I like to see in online selling fees how much I paid. That could be part of something else, but I don't mind breaking up to have an extra row just so I can see how much I'm paying in online selling fees for the year. However, you might find that your business model needs something else in there. I don't know what. Okay, again, you have to talk to your tax attorney and say, hey, this is what I have in my expense section. Am I missing anything? And this may be more helpful to ask your tax attorney when you already had a year under your belt. So when he's seen your taxes, done your taxes for you, he can say, hey, I would love if you break down this for me. So let's continue. Expenses. Now, depending on what type of business you are, how you file your taxes, whatever, you may pay yourself a certain way. I'm an S Corp, corporation, so I'm an employee of my company. I get an actual check from Modern Pink Paper monthly. I pay myself monthly. And so at the end of the year, I get a W-2 from Modern Pink Paper. Okay. That's considered my payroll expense. Okay. You might be an LLC and I don't know how you pay yourself. Okay. However, it's part of your payroll expenses. So again, check with your tax attorney for this, but you put your payroll expenses on the first line. Really simple. You're doing January, put it in January. Now, if you use a payroll service like I do, make sure you put those fees and stuff that they charge you within that as well. They have to be put somewhere, okay? Put the amount of money you pay yourself there, okay? If you're an S Corp like me, I pay myself officially through a check. Every month, I get the same amount every month, okay? It goes there. All right, contract work. You may need to hire somebody on a contract basis, such as a web designer or I don't know. I'm not sure if many of you will have the need to do this, but if you do, I have that spot there. It is literally the check you paid them, okay? That's considered they're self-employed, okay? So imagine I contracted somebody for a few months to create a whole bunch of new designs for me, and I paid her $1,000. That would go under contract work or outside services or whatever, okay? You may not have a need for this, FYI. We have office supplies, cost of goods sold, advertising, etc., etc. Before you start typing it in here, I would rather you break it down. So I have included in the third sheet, okay, it's the third tab in your Excel document. cost of goods sold, supplies, office supplies, assets, subscriptions, education, etc. You could add to this, it's fine. So the cost of goods sold, guys, is when you purchase materials that are part of the cost of your product that you sell. According to my accountant, it's all considered an expense anyway, but he likes it broken down. One, because that's how the paperwork asks for it, cost of goods sold, regular expenses. So just to be very clear and, concise, but it still goes as under an expense. So in my personal opinion, if by accident you put in 1 month one of your items in the expense section, like a regular office supply, then I don't think anybody's going to kill you. Okay, so in my worksheet, I put in vendor 1, vendor 2, vendor 3, vendor 4. You could do it that way, or you could put in the type of supply for your cost of goods. You could put, for me, it would be paper, ink, clear sleeves, envelopes, blah. I do it differently. I put it by vendor, mostly because it's easier for me then to attack my bank statement and say, okay, everybody from this vendor puts in here, and these vendors are pretty much that one supply. So I order, my paper from one supplier, envelope from one supplier, ink from one supplier. So it still works out to be pretty much, the vendor name is pretty much equal to what the material is, okay? But I do it by vendor name, so when I look through my statement, I only use one card, which is a debit card, my business card, for any business expenses. The more you use, the more harder bookkeeping becomes. Don't do it, in my opinion. Get one business account, have one debit card. If you're interested in earning points, then fine, but do it only through that one card, okay? So when I look through my bank statement, I say, okay, I literally look through it, so I have to do process of elimination. I find everything from, let's say I buy my ink from eBay. I found all the eBay purchases, I cross them off and I put them in here. Okay, so I put eBay. Let's say the eBay is the last one here. Under January, I start to add up in that little box, that little cell. $50, $60, $80, and $30. All the ink purchases I made. I hit enter and then it adds up for me. I do the same thing with paper, everything. Right underneath is office supplies. More than likely for you, I don't know what's going to be for you exactly, but it's going to be paper, pens. I don't know what you need in your office supplies. So that's an office expense, etc., and so forth. So what you're going to do is obviously write the type of office supply, then of course put the numbers in. Okay, again, if you only use one card, it becomes easier. You don't have to look through multiple statements. All right, so you got your office supplies. Again, pens. Sometimes you might have to question what's considered an office supply, what's considered a cost of goods sold. You're more than welcome to ask this group. You're more than welcome to join tax groups. You're more than welcome to ask your accountant. What I do, I make a quick call to my accountant and I say, hey, I have a question about this. And he tells me how to put it in my bookkeeping worksheet to make sure we're covering our butts. Okay. Karen says, do you think we should do a Say Bookkeeping Buddy? People in a group with similar businesses so we could bounce questions off of? You're more than welcome to. You want to test it out and see, okay, let me try this works. It makes sense if you're within the same business. Absolutely. And you can just go ahead and post and ask, and, you don't have to do exact businesses, but in the stationery business, there's a lot of people in stationery. Maybe not everybody that's doing personalized stationery like the way I do it, but maybe people do wedding stationery or whatever, and that could be helpful. So yeah, absolutely. Here's something really important. Assets purchased. Why does the accountant need it separated? I don't know, but he does. And I could ask him why and how he puts it in, but that's no bother to me. I just know that he wants his assets and he needs to know what they are. So for me and my business, guys, I basically purchase the same assets over and over again. Not like multiple times a year, but still. Actually, some, yes. One of them is a printer. Others are PCs, laptops, phones, furniture. That's my assets. Now, according to my accountant, an asset is a few things. One, it's something that's usually over $150, give or take. And two, it's one of those things that will last you a long time. They stay with you for years, okay? And it has to be starting over a dollar amount. Like this mic right here. I'm not sure if it's really considered an asset. Didn't cost me much, but I didn't consider it an asset. You're more than welcome to still put it there and then ask your accountant later. The worst case, if he tells you no, your microphone's not an asset, you could then take that figure and move it to office supplies. I consider this an office supply when I bought it. Okay. And again, depending on your business, I also have a lot of different office supplies than you guys because I also run the Handmade Mastermind. So there's a lot of things that I purchased in order to get this keep running for you guys, So again, assets purchased, I list printer, PC, laptop, phone, etc. My accountant likes me to, and he mentioned this recently, likes me to kind of name these items so we can reference them later because eventually these assets don't last forever. In fact, you guys may know this already, but my laptop died. Well, I'm using my husband's laptop. So the point is, he needs to know which is what. So if I buy a phone tomorrow, and I use my phone pretty much for my business, let's call it the Samsung S7, right? But I upgrade tomorrow and I buy the Samsung S8. I would use those as the names of it because he has pretty much an asset breakdown paper that he has, and he needs to update it regularly when I start to get rid of items. Okay. He did tell me that if you sell your assets, you have to let him know, your accountant know, and that income you made from it is revenue. Okay. I don't sell my assets when they're done. I use them until I really squeeze out every bit I can from the assets I have until it's literally like shriveled and dead. Let me answer a few questions before I continue. Do you think we could do, oh, I read that already. I use QuickBooks. Love it that I could transfer into Schedule C automatically with Turbo. April Ann brings up a good point. You may be listening to this and saying, well, Di, I use a bookkeeping software. Thank you, but no thank you, right? I don't need you to help me with this. I love that. I love that you use a bookkeeping software. But listen to my only advice for this. You need to, on a monthly basis, audit that software, meaning I never used it before. So you're going to go into it at the end of the end of the month. Let's say January finishes, go into it in the first week of February and say, okay, did everything add up correctly? Do an audit, meaning say, okay, did my monthly office supplies add up correctly? Did it import everything correctly? Did it import all of my assets correctly? I found that some people complain that these are systems, right? They may fail to do things that import correctly. And one person in particular that I remember has found $12,000 worth of expenses that her bookkeeping software did not import. Okay? These are systems, even humans mess up sometimes. So I recommend if you're doing that, that's great. It saves you a lot of time. Okay? I highly recommend QuickBooks from what I know about it. And I would recommend checking it around every month. Put a little to-do list on your phone every month. I tell, you could tell your Google Assistant or whatever, Siri, to remind you in 1 month, every month on the first Monday of the month, or whatever you want to do it, however you want to do it, to remind you to check your bookkeeping numbers. Boom. That's all I ask. Because if you're missing expenses, that's going to screw you over later. Okay? Just want to say that. Phyllis, this is my first time making sales on Etsy in Nevada. I didn't charge taxes. Do you know if that was a section I was supposed to add for my state, or is it a section that Etsy would have added for me? I'm hoping I'm wording this right. I understand your question. Without knowing your state's rules on sales tax, I'll give you my example. In Texas, we charge sales tax for people that are in Texas, okay? And you don't expect Etsy to set it up or Amazon. You have to set it up yourself. There are settings within your account on Etsy and Amazon you have to set up. So when I first started, I set it up. When I did Amazon, I set it up. And then you can start charging sales tax. This, what I'm teaching you today, has nothing to do with sales tax at all. That's a separate filing that I do. I do it quarterly, and I would be more than happy to go over that another time with you guys. Maybe even in a vlog, because it's, I don't have to dedicate a whole Facebook Live to it because it's fairly simple in my opinion. But if your state rules tell you have to charge sales tax in your state, which again is Nevada, you have to set it up. And I can't advise you on what you have to do now that you haven't charged it for a while. I don't know the answer. Do I include my phone, internet, and light and gas as part of my expenses? I love this question, okay? Because I talked to my accountant about a few things. Again, I'm giving you my experience and my situation. Take what I tell you and then talk to your tax attorney, okay? So I put in my phone because it pretty much is solely used for business, literally. So I include my phone because the majority of it, I think a certain percentage has to be used for business. I include my internet because that's pretty much solely used for business in the home. If we need internet otherwise, like if I'm checking something on Google, like how to look up a recipe, I just look on my phone. From what my accountant said, if the majority of the use is for your business, you could write it off as an expense, okay? Now, you asked a great question, light and gas and utilities, right? Here's what my accountant does. My square footage of my house, I'm going to make up a number, is 5,000 square foot. It's not really that big. I'm just giving you an example. My office space, let's say 1,000 square foot. That is a fifth of my home, correct? So what he's doing is telling me, give me your utilities, give me your HOA fees. If you guys know what a HOA is, you have to pay a fee yearly. Give me your property taxes, and there's something else. Give me all those. I could write off a fifth of that because you use a fifth of your home for business. I could write off a fifth of that as if it was rent for your business. I said, that sounds really shady. You mean to tell me that I could pay myself rent? He goes, not necessarily. He goes, but you are using part of the utilities and everything because I use a substantial part of my home. For my business, I use the whole entire like second floor, like living room, I guess they call it, game room. I use this entire office. I use the entire garage. Okay. So I do give him my utility bill, you know, all the stuff. And then he does it as if it was like rent. It could be part of an expense. Again, take what I taught you, what I just said, talk to your tax attorney. Michelle says, my accountant wants to know our total bill for each year regarding that. Yes, you could do that. I like to break it down for months because I could see, but I think if you give it to them for the year, I think it's fine. Love it, Michelle. It's called home office expenses when you write off part of your utilities. Love it. So we did the assets purchase. Now, I particularly like to put this in here because I happen to have quite a bit, but you may not, but I still put it in there for you. You could consider this as an office expense, absolutely. But I like to separate it, to break it out and break it down. Subscriptions. So I have subscriptions to several different things for my business, some related to the Handmade Mastermind, Marmalead, et cetera, and so forth. So I put them in here. Now, education. You guys know education. For me, it's one of my favorites. Like if I were to like I actually do like bookkeeping. But if I were to like a piece of this, which makes no sense, I don't know why I would decide to like a piece of my bookkeeping, but if I did, I like education for a few reasons. One, you could actually write off my webinars as an education expense. It is. It's educating you to help you in your business, period. Love it. It's an expense. Well, obviously, I mean, you're using it for your business. Another thing is that I get to write off my Audible expense. I pretty much listen to books, and I write off this expense because a lot of them are business books. And here's the thing, even if it's not a business book, I still talk to my accountant. He goes, it's not a big deal. He goes, but I do tell him that I actually recommend them to you guys. In fact, a recent vlog of mine, I recommended a book that was not business related, but I felt like you still would enjoy. And he goes, that feels like it's part of business. I said, okay, love it. Okay. So I put that as under education. By the way, when you're putting it in this third worksheet, it doesn't automatically calculate in here. Okay. But what I like to do, and I teach you how to do it in the blog post, okay? If you don't know how to use Excel. For example, if you take cost of goods sold on the main worksheet and you want to add it all up to put in the January column, you go to your cost of goods sold and you could add it up manually and put it in. Yeah, I don't want to do manually. So what I do is I go to the cost of goods sold cell here. I type in this formula, equals, the equal sign, SUM, parentheses, then I go to the tab where the cost of goods sold is, and then you could select each one of these, okay, that's cost of goods sold, by separating them by a plus sign. Then you close parentheses, hit enter. It will automatically go back to the first page and calculate your cost of goods sold. You do the same thing, by the way, guys, for office supplies, which is from that worksheet. You do the same thing for whatever else, okay? Now, there's a few other ones on here that I included a breakdown on page 2. I like to break down my online selling fees. I like to know where things are coming from. It's not required, but I like to know how much I spend on Etsy, how much I spend on my second Etsy shop, how much I spend on Amazon and shipping, etc. Okay, and it's not that hard for me to do. So over here in the second worksheet, you have the shop name. And then if you go to the billing section in your Etsy shop and click on the month, okay, you will see listing fees, transaction fees, renew fees, blah, blah, and I just input it in. It's really just going down. All your online selling fees are everything except Etsy shipping and promoted listings. Etsy shipping is under the shipping paid. Okay, you're going to add those up and put it in there. And the promoted listings is under the advertising category, because I not only do I have Etsy, promoted listing, which is advertising for Etsy, but I also have it for Amazon. I also have the shipping paid for Amazon as well. Okay, and I also have it for my .com. Just, this is my particular situation thing. So when you do get the promoted listings from here, and let's say you sell on Amazon as well, you take this figure, you take the Amazon advertising figure, which I show you how to do it in the blog post. You add it up and you put it under advertising. Okay, guys, so again, you're putting all your expenses in these other worksheets, and then you're taking it and adding it into the cells in the beginning. Why, as opposed to just putting it in the first page? Because I need you to be able to see where things are going. So then when somebody questions you, like your accountant, you can say, aha, the assets I've purchased are X, Y, and Z. Or the office supply that cost me so much this month was blah, blah, blah. Or, you know what I'm saying? So if you just put it in this front box here, you won't know where they came from. All you see is number totals. So breaking it down is important. Now, you may want to take this worksheet and add to it and say, Daya didn't add this to this, and I need this for my business. Do it, okay? Do it now before the middle of the year or something, because as you use this worksheet, you may find it troublesome to add columns and things in here, because it may mess up your formulas as you start to do automated formulas to add up your numbers. Here, my worksheet, because I'm an S Corp, I'm able to take out cash draws for my company, meaning because I'm the 100% shareholder, I mean, after I pay myself, there's still business profits. That profits don't sit in the business and go to nobody. They're mine after I pay taxes on it. So I'm more than welcome to help myself to them. Okay, if I wanted to. And of course, you guys know in the beginning of the year, I was able to pay off my home loan. So I withdrew a huge amount for my home loan and my car, and et cetera and so forth. I withdraw a couple times in the year to pay taxes quarterly, you know. So if you have that type of business model, you're able to withdraw cash, that should not be part of your expenses. It is not an expense, okay? It is separate. I actually separate it from my accountant so he knows this is my business account, how much it has in it at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. You might say, why it's so low, Dahlia? Or why the discrepancy? Because I withdrew cash. It's not an expense. This is just in case you need to do the same thing. I'm giving you a heads up. Don't put it as an expense, okay? Michelle, I'm at the moment reading Hug Your Customers. Thanks for the recommendation. Yes, I absolutely love it. Hi, Colin. I did come in late, so you might talk about it already, but do you pay your taxes quarterly or just put money aside to pay once a year? I pay quarterly. However, if you don't pay quarterly and it's recommended to pay quarterly, I heard there's like a fee that you have to pay. I heard the fee is very, very small. Okay. Some people say it's smart for you to pay once a year so then you could hold on to that money and invest it and earn money on it. Like, why would you pay it, quarterly? But it's depending on your personal preference and what your tax attorney recommends for you, obviously. I like paying quarterly because then when the tax bill comes, like I'm about to talk to my tax attorney very soon, he's going to have to give me a hefty bill to pay. The hefty bill won't be as big because I paid quarterly. So it makes me feel better. However, also because I've been growing tremendously year after year, the estimated amounts that's projected for me to pay quarterly have been under the amount I end up having to pay because it's based on the prior year's taxes. But because my business keeps growing tremendously, then I end up still owing some more. Now, I did want to mention a few things to help you, some tips. I also mentioned in the blog post, okay? One, when you are doing your bookkeeping, again, if you're using a bookkeeping software, I recommend QuickBooks, but any system is not perfect. It may work for you for a year and it'd be perfect, no problem. But don't underestimate how systems can fail. Meaning, it may not import something correctly or double import, or you never know. I heard too many stories. Do an audit. You could do it once a month. You could do it once a quarter and make sure things are importing correctly. Auditing, meaning in your whole worksheet, you're going to say, okay, let me nitpick a couple expenses or a couple of categories and see if it added up correctly. Yes, it's going to take a hot minute to do, but it's better than realizing, oh crap, at the end of the year, I mean, you'll realize it. If you realize it, you can fix it. But imagine you paid more taxes than you would have had to. If you're doing it manually like I do, I'm not saying I recommend one or the other. I like to know my numbers. I enjoy doing bookkeeping. I don't particularly trust systems. That's me. However, they did fine for a lot of people. I'm not talking bad about them. 'Cause I'm very, particular. I'd recommend setting aside a good chunk of time. If you do it monthly, which is I highly recommend, you probably don't need more than a couple hours. Okay, maybe less. Okay. Time is money, guys. I understand that. My time was worth a lot of money, but I still rather do it manually. Okay. You could obviously hire a professional bookkeeper, but that's very costly as well. Now, I mentioned before and I'll mention again, please make your bookkeeping simplified. Don't use 20 charge cards to get points. Do what you wish. I actually don't own a credit card, guys. And the reason why is because I don't like the stress of seeing that big bill and not realizing how much I spent. So I only use my debit card for everything. Generally speaking, if you can, only use one account for your business. Now, I happen to use my business account, my checking account, and I happen to use PayPal because of the things I do online. Okay, so I can't go around it, but don't overcomplicate things. Don't have several business accounts. Don't use a personal and your business account. It just makes bookkeeping harder. And I'm just giving you a heads up. Make it simplified. I just highly recommend as simplified as you can. Okay, maybe one is not the answer for you, but maybe 2 accounts. Maybe one is PayPal, one is a checking account. Maybe one is your checking account, one is a credit card, so you could earn a lot of points on it. Maybe it works for you. Another thing I want to mention, I just come off on a tangent. On the second page, okay, again, depending on where you sell online, etc., I have PayPal fees because I sell my websites connected to PayPal. So over here I have .com fees. What I do is when I download that PayPal monthly situation, right, statement, I go through the fees column and I add it all up. That's what I simply do. Those are my fees for my .com. Okay. Then on the same PayPal statement, because I use that for shipping. Okay, on my .com, I have a shipping section right here. The if and ands and all the stuff may vary what I just taught you because your business may be a little bit different. You may have a little bit more involved or less involved. This worksheet should help get you started. I'd recommend if you have a tax attorney, do a month of bookkeeping. Go through it with him or her and make sure you're doing it in the way that's best for him to understand. Because then he'll charge you less fees. If you make him work a little harder, he'll charge you more fees. I love that, Maggie. Maggie said, don't forget about mileage. Yes, there are some things you have to input, okay? I don't put it on here, and you can. There's a miscellaneous section. You could put it here, but miles are not dollar amounts. I mean, you can actually do the math for your accountant, but I literally hand a sheet of paper. When I give this to my accountant, I give him the mileage broken down by the month. I give him I don't know why he needs this, but he does. My beginning and ending balance of my bank account. I give him the information for any of the contract workers I use throughout the year, which is only very few, et cetera, and so forth. Okay. So yes, I love that, Maggie. Based on what people said earlier, yes, add utilities on here. Okay. Now I want to talk about, to kind of wrap this up. I am a corporation, meaning my business is Modern Pink Paper Inc. Okay. I'm not LLC, anything like that. I did this because I was told to by a family friend who's an accountant, an attorney of some sort, and I didn't know any better. But I found out to be a huge blessing because of the amount of money I was making. Because I'm a corporation, I get to file as an S Corp. You are more than welcome to be an LLC and file as an S Corp. Please discuss this with your tax attorney. This could save you a lot of money, okay? Because if you're an LLC, you pay self-employment taxes. Okay, so you pay your tax amount percentage, and on top of that, you pay self-employment taxes. I do not. I just pay my tax amount. I don't have self-employment taxes. So it's usually a win-win for people. So I recommend you don't have to be a corporation. You could be an LLC and file as an S Corp. Please talk to your tax attorney. And there are some tax attorneys that don't even deal with S Corp filings. You may have to move tax attorneys, okay? This is my personal opinion to you. To at least do the legwork and find out because I want to save you some money. Guys, I pay taxes every year and I'm an S Corp. And I will tell you, I have saved thousands. And I'll be honest with you, double-digit thousands I saved because I'm an S Corp. If I wasn't, I'd be paying much more. Trina says, how do you find an accountant? When I got started, I consulted and paid $350 for 2 hours. I could not afford to go back. What is the standard to expect? I can't tell you the standard. I could tell you that for me, for consultation, it doesn't cost me anything. And for me to file, I'll just tell you, for me to file, oh, hold on a second. I'm giving you a rough estimate. It's very similar. For me to file my personal taxes, I think it's $250. For me to file my business taxes, because S corporations are a little bit more complicated than just being a sole proprietor. It's its own separate taxes. I pay $450. All I know, this is what I would personally do. I'd call several accountants up and ask them several questions. And you can ask the receptionist, you know, if I had a question throughout the year, like a couple questions that I want answered, can I come talk to Steve, which is my guy's name? Does it cost anything for consultations? Usually within 30 minutes of his time or not. If you feel like you can afford prices for consultations, then don't take that accountant. Cross them out of the list. Call the next one. If you feel that if it's for free, then great. If you feel like it's within your realm that you can afford it, great. Or if they charge a very low fee for consultations, that's great. You can even ask that person, okay, what if I shoot him an email? If I have bookkeeping questions, such as, you know, where should I put this under my bookkeeping worksheet, you know, or am I able to put this as an expense? Like simple questions. If you charge for a consultation fee, can I just email and get the answer? That may suffice, okay? But if you really do need a consultation, like a full consultation, then see how much it costs. Next thing is that when you talk to the person, always meet them in person. You want to make sure that you understand, right, that you're comfortable with them and understand when they explain things to you. Some people are better at explaining tax stuff than others, okay? And you should feel comfortable asking follow-up questions multiple times if you don't understand, and that person still being patient and help you through it. I hope that helps a little bit, okay? And I don't know the standard, just to answer your original, I don't know the standard for how much consultation fees are because I don't get charged any. Do you separate your business and personal accounts, or do you just have one account for everything? I absolutely separate my business and personal accounts because it makes it for easier tax for bookkeeping. Get a checking account. And, you know, there's a lot of different banks that have pros and cons, you know, find out. And I actually opened a business checking. Why? I don't know, but I'm sure a regular checking would do just fine. Your accountant doesn't care if it's actual, you know, a business type of checking. As long as it's a checking account you use for your business separately, it makes it easier for you, okay? So you can technically open another personal account and just use it for business, okay? But I like having the business account because my debit card has my business name on it. Okay, it may make things a lot easier depending on what you do with your business card. Okay, how can I find a good CPA in my area? I'm in Chicago. Or do you do your personal taxes as well with your tax accountant? Mine said they don't deal with business taxes. With my tax accountant, I do personal and business. Okay, the reason why I don't do my own personal, I'm not sure if you asked this, but I'll just answer, because the way my business is set up, after the business taxes are filed, the business does not pay the taxes. The amount of profits that I have gets funneled into the 100% shareholder, which is me, and it counts as income for Dalia Abdullah and gets into my personal one as a Schedule C, and bada bing, bada boom. So I feel like it's complicated and it would stress me out. I will pay money so I don't have the stress. And so I pay somebody to do it. So my recommendation to how to find a good CPA is, number one, ask people, ask locals, right? You have some neighbors, you know, some friends, blah, blah, ask, get the information, call that person, see if they do personal and business. That's the first thing I would do because recommendations are always the best. Second, you could go into one of your local Facebook groups and ask for recommendations as well. So somebody's like, yes, absolutely love this person, blah, blah. Recommendations are always really great because you don't know what you're going to get when you first call somebody. All right. Michelle asked, if you're an S Corp, you have to be a business account. You can't use a personal because you file under the corporation's name. Love it. Michelle answered that question. Love it. The names must match, which is kind of hard for me to understand, Michelle. And I'm not challenging you, I'm just saying because my accountant doesn't know if my checking account is business or personal. However, when filing my taxes, I'm assuming, you know, the IRS could check and see if I have this account. So I guess that makes sense. Okay. I'm a member of the credit union and have a business and a personal account. I was considering an LLC, now rethinking. Was going to get Joey Vitale to help me. Don't reconsider, because what I recommend, actually, if I could go back in time and do this, I would. I'd rather you be an LLC filing as an S Corp, okay? From my understanding, again, talk to your tax attorney. Being a corporation and filing the S Corp is more costly than being an LLC filing as an S Corp. Okay, I'm just leave it at that. So you still probably want to get that LLC set up and talk to your tax attorney. Say, hey, I'm an LLC. I want to file as an S Corp. What do I do next? Okay. Now, I don't file my own taxes. I have somebody do it, so I can't give you particulars about that. But we definitely talked about things you could write off here. Anytime you travel for work, that's a mileage expense. You know, I go to New York every year for the National Stationery Show. Of course, see my family there as well. So I write off part of my vacation time there. I write off the ticket going there, et cetera, and so forth. So just think about, you know, anything you use for your business can be written off. Again, if you have questions, but what could be written off, a simple one we could absolutely answer for you. A more complicated one, I feel like you can still ask us, but maybe best to contact your tax attorney. But for me personally, I'd rather not mess with the IRS and have any issues with potentially not doing it correctly. So I pay, and you know, several hundreds of dollars to get somebody to do it for me so I could be stress free. And my business makes a decent amount of money. So the stress is not worth it for me. I just pay somebody to do it. Your tax attorney may have bookkeeping services as well. You may want to ask about it, okay? It just depends. So before I let you guys go or you leave, I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about next week in the Facebook Live. I already have an idea, and I'm going to start getting it together, but I wanted to see what you guys were thinking. I know I posted not too long ago what ideas you had, and I really want to go over bookkeeping first because it's literally like we're doing it as we speak because taxes are right around the corner. And again, the last tip I have for you guys is make sure you start good bookkeeping practices now, January, beginning of the year. So next year, you won't have these issues, okay? Meaning if you didn't do bookkeeping all year, you won't have these issues, okay? So you want to make sure that you do that. So here's the thing. I was thinking about doing Amazon next week because it's highly requested. I've never really done, you know, Facebook Live dedicated to Amazon. I've done a couple on photography, not really, but kind of. So I think I may do Amazon next week and maybe the week after photography. Even though everybody's asking for photography now, maybe I should do that sooner. Maybe we can do Amazon next week. And again, I want you to join me live next week for the Amazon Facebook Live because I think I'm doing something special for you guys. And you're not going to want to miss the Facebook Live. I'm going to do that. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's Facebook Live. I will see you officially on Facebook Live next week. But of course, I'll see you around the group and then, you know, over the course of the next few days, as usual, okay? I hope you guys are being very productive. I know a lot of people have been posting about lack of motivation, feeling very down and, you know, tired and, you know, kind of, we're still not over the holiday season yet. It took me a little while, but I'm already over it. I'm back to my normal groove. So I hope that you could find what works for you to get you back in the groove. Not always do we have to be 100% productive every single day, granted, but if you're still feeling in a funk after holiday season has been over, you know? So I'm hoping that you could get back into work. Find out what motivates you, okay? Whatever it may be, write them down and do them. So sometimes you could be listening to music during work. You could be listening to something in the background. You could be listening to previous Facebook Lives, etc. Whatever it may be to motivate you, do it, you know? Okay, guys, have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye.